Recap: Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao, Chapter 1209. Chaptering Hao had always stood beneath the heavens as a figure others could only gaze upon from afar. From the moment he was born into a clan guarded by a heavenly body tier elite, destiny itself seemed to bend in his favor. His talent revealed itself early, blazing like a scorching sun that none could ignore. Wherever he walked, admiration followed. Wherever he stood, others lowered their heads in awe. Within his family, expectations towered like mountains, yet he had never once faltered beneath their weight. Among his peers, he was invincible, an existence feared and revered in equal measure. Even after stepping into the majestic heaven sect, a place where prodigies gathered like clouds, he had crushed all who dared stand before him. He was the peak among peaks, the chosen son of heaven, destined to one day command a region. And yet, a stain had appeared upon his flawless legend, Ling Han. Though it had not been Ling Han who personally struck him down, the truth could not be denied. He had nearly been beaten to death by Empress Luanxing. His life essence had been torn away, leaving behind a wound that no cultivation technique could easily mend. For Yang Hao, this humiliation was a brand burned into his soul. One day, he would repay Empress Luanxing in full. But today, Ling Han would pay first. Han Lin? Yang Hao's voice rang out, cold as a blade drawn in winter. Killing fellow disciples is a grave crime. Worse still, it is despicable. His gaze sharpened, filled with cruel intent. I suggest we bind him before the sect gates and carve a piece of flesh from him each day. Let him bleed slowly until his life essence withers away. A chill spread through the crowd like frost creeping across still water. Ruthless. To mortals, death might come swiftly, but for immortals, death was a distant, stubborn thing. As long as their vital core remained intact, even severed limbs could regrow. Even drained blood could be replenished. Yet every recovery came at a price, the consumption of life essence. This life essence was unseen, intangible, yet undeniably real. There existed sinister arts that could devour it, refining another's life into one's own nourishment, extending lifespan, strengthening cultivation, and Yang Hao's punishment? It was not death. It was something far worse. A drawn-out end, where Ling Han would feel every drop of life slipping away until nothing remained. Even Gao Huang and Hua Yangwen felt a tremor in their hearts. They were no strangers to cruelty, yet this was something else entirely. This young man before them was not merely arrogant. He was merciless. But Ling Han only threw his head back and laughed, his voice ringing clear and fearless. Yang Hao, how pitiful you are! He stepped forward, eyes blazing with challenge. Come, suppress your cultivation and fight me at equal level. Let's see how I grind you into the dirt! Yang Hao's lips curled in disdain. You? He sneered. You think you are worthy of standing against me? Ling Han only smiled wider. I won't bully you, he said casually, slipping his left hand behind his back. If we fight at the same level, I'll handicap myself, one hand, one foot. Then, as if it were nothing, he placed his right hand behind his back as well. Actually, I can even do it with both hands. Silence fell. Arrogant, unbearably arrogant. Gao Huang's gaze flickered, then he spoke cautiously. Uncle Yang, why don't we restrain him first? A little punishment will make him more obedient. Despite his seniority and slightly higher cultivation, his tone carried deference. Yang Hao gave a faint nod. Very well, restrain him. His eyes locked onto Ling Han, filled with contempt. How laughable. How could such an insignificant ant dare challenge him? Ling Han's heart tightened, so they had finally decided to act. Once they moved, it would be time for him to retreat into the Black Tower. He would endure for now, and return to settle all debts in the future. But just as tension coiled to its peak, humph! A cold snort cut through the air. It seems you still haven't learned your lesson, barking like a mad dog even now. Hu Feiyun strode forward, yet the aura radiating from her was no longer hers. It soared far beyond the mountain river tier. It was Empress Luanxing. Ling Han's brows furrowed instantly. He had already prepared his escape, but this changed everything. If she stepped into danger because of him, how could he hide within the Black Tower and watch? She had come for him. How could he abandon her? And beyond that, there was something more between them now. A bond still forming, yet already unbreakable. Yang Hao's face drained of color. He, who had never feared anyone, now felt dread coil in his chest. He remembered all too clearly. the pain of being crushed by her hand. Pa! Without warning, Empress Luanxing struck. Her palm swept through the air, and Yang Hao was sent flying like a broken kite. Pooh! Blood erupted from his body in a violent spray, his life essence instantly beginning to wither. A single strike, and he was gravely wounded. Had she not shown restraint, he would have already perished beneath the might of a heavenly body tier elite. Ha! Madam, a voice echoed, cold and sharp. This is already the second time. The air distorted. Two figures emerged, descending like celestial shadows. Both appeared middle-aged, their features obscured by swirling primal chaos. Behind each of them, 4 heavenly bodies hovered, radiating terrifying power. Father! Gao Huang and Hua Yangwen exclaimed in unison, their faces lighting with relief. These were no ordinary figures. They were Gao Fang and Hua Yongning, the 4th and 6th disciples of Venerable Trinity, leaders of the Gao and Hua factions, both standing at the consummate peak of the heavenly body tier. Madam, Hua Yongning said coldly, you have gone too far. This is the majestic heaven sect, not your chaotic star's majestic empire. Empress Luanxing's gaze remained calm, yet her presence pressed down like the will of a sovereign. You wish to stop me? Her voice was soft, but within it lay absolute authority. In terms of sheer presence, who could rival a ruler? Even though their cultivation matched hers, Gao Fang and Hua Yongning felt the pressure weigh upon them like mountains. Just then, Ling Han suddenly spoke. Your Majesty, this is my matter. Please do not interfere. As he spoke, he shot her a series of frantic glances. You know I have the spatial god tool. Who could possibly harm your man? Empress Luanxing saw through him instantly. Yet she only replied coolly, He is my subject. I heard you intended to interrogate him, so I came. To observe. Observe? Would observing cause Yang Hao to cough blood? Would it leave his life essence crumbling? Yet who would dare argue? If a heavenly body tier elite chose to twist reality, only strength could correct it. And that would mean war. Gao Fang and Hua Yongning exchanged glances wary. Still, they reassured themselves. This was merely a spiritual imprint. Her power must have limits. Fine, they said at last. If you wish to observe, then observe. They stood with hands behind their backs, guarding the scene. With them present, she would not be able to act recklessly. Meanwhile, Yang Hao slowly rose from the ground, fury blazing in his eyes. What about him? Had he been struck for nothing? Aren't you going to begin the trial? Empress Luanxing asked, her gaze falling upon Shen Kuo. Her presence surged. Stars and galaxies seemed to revolve within her pupils. The pressure alone nearly forced Shen Kuo to vomit blood. He grimaced inwardly. Trial? What trial? They had already stripped Ling Han of his status and expelled him. Still, under her gaze, he had no choice but to repeat the decision. The moment the words left his mouth, Pa! Another strike. Shen Kuo was sent flying, his bones shattering as if crushed by divine force. He lay sprawled on the ground, unable to rise. I do not agree with this verdict, Empress Luanxing declared, her tone absolute. Redo the trial. Emile. Enough. Hua Yongning and Gao Fang could endure no more. Madam, you have gone too far. Did she truly believe this was her empire? Just then, a voice descended from the heavens, cold, ancient, overwhelming. Heh, young lady, I overlooked your disturbance the first time. Yet you return again to stir trouble. A pause. The air itself seemed to freeze. The one you struck is my disciple. A terrifying pressure swept across the land. It burrowed into bones, into souls, into the very essence of existence. Everyone trembled uncontrollably. This was no ordinary power. This was the might of a transcendent being. Venerable Trinity had arrived. Who could have foreseen that what began as a mere trial for a mountain river tier cultivator would spiral into a storm so fierce that even an eternal river tier existence would descend upon the scene? The very heavens seemed to grow heavier. Empress Luanxing's expression shifted at once, her brows knitting tightly. Though her strength towered above countless beings, she had yet to ascend to the peak of the heavenly body tier. Against an eternal river tier elite, she was still lacking. And yet, despite the overwhelming gulf, she did not retreat even a single step. Her voice rang out, clear and unyielding, like a blade striking iron. Senior, heaven and earth may be vast, but nothing surpasses justice. These vermin conspire to fabricate charges and condemn the innocent. How can I stand by and do nothing? A faint chuckle echoed through the void, carried by an unseen presence that pressed down upon all. Young lady, the voice of Venerable Trinity drifted through the air, though his figure remained hidden. The affairs of the majestic Heavens sect are not yours to meddle in. Answer me instead. Why did you injure my disciple? Nearby, Yang Hao let out a cold laugh. Within him lay the divine sense seal bestowed by his master. With but a flicker of thought, he had summoned Venerable Trinity. The ease of it all revealed just how deeply his master favored him. So what if Empress Luanxing was a heavenly body tier elite? Before an eternal river tier existence, she was nothing but dust. And yet, she had struck him. Not once, but twice. A cruel glint flashed across Yang Hao's eyes. The time for repayment had arrived. Empress Luanxing raised her brow, her gaze sharp as a drawn sword. So, Senior intends to bully the weak? Little girl? Venerable Trinity replied lazily, Do not attempt to bind me with words. Kneel. Apologize to my disciple. Do so, and I may spare you once more. Those words struck like thunder. This was not merely a demand. It was humiliation laid bare. Even an ordinary heavenly body tier cultivator would find it impossible to kneel before a mere sun-moon tier junior, let alone someone of Empress Luanxing's stature. A sovereign who ruled over countless lives. Her expression darkened. She had not anticipated such blind favoritism, such complete disregard for reason. But in this world, reason had always belonged to the strong. The weak could only endure. Ha! 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 She laughed coldly, her voice filled with icy defiance. Among her 9 incarnations, only one had yet to step into the heavenly body tier. With her vast experience and inexhaustible resources, Hu Feiyun would need no more than a century to reach that realm. And once she did, she would rise to its very peak. Then, she would break through into the eternal river tier. A king-tier genius who perfected every stage would possess 6 stars of power upon advancing, enough to challenge Venerable Trinity himself. By all known accounts, Venerable Trinity was merely at the late stage of the low extreme of the eternal river tier. Yet, that was in the future. Right now, she was too weak. Far too weak. Young lady, it seems you refuse to yield, Venerable Trinity said with a faint chuckle. But your defiance changes nothing. However, since she struck you, why not return the favor? Yang Hao bowed slightly, feigning humility. Master, she is a heavenly body tier elite. I am no match for her. Ha! Venerable Trinity replied, his tone laced with indulgence. Is your master not here? At once, Yang Hao's lips curled into a chilling smile. The meaning was clear. With Venerable Trinity's protection, what could a mere heavenly body tier cultivator possibly do? In the eyes of an eternal river tier elite, even the strongest of that realm were nothing more than helpless infants. Ling Han's heart tightened violently. If Empress Luanxing were struck, no matter that this was only a clone, the humiliation would be unbearable. She would not endure it, and neither would he. Come here, he roared, his voice cutting through the oppressive air. So what if Venerable Trinity stood above them all? He would take her into the Black Tower. She was his future wife. How could he allow her to suffer such disgrace? Empress Luanxing had originally intended to stir chaos, to expose the injustice before all and secure a fair trial for Ling Han. But in her fury, she had struck Yang Hao, summoning a calamity far greater than she had anticipated. Yet she was resolute. Without hesitation, she rushed toward Ling Han. Ha! Trying to flee? Venerable Trinity's voice echoed again. In that instant, Empress Luanxing froze. It was as though time itself had shackled her, her body locked in place like a statue carved from stone. Yang Hao let out a low snicker as he approached her step by step, savoring the moment. He raised his hand slowly, anticipation gleaming in his eyes. This was vengeance, and it would be sweet. Of course, before him stood only a clone. Had he seen her true form, perhaps even he might hesitate. But Empress Luanxing was too proud to ever rely on her beauty. Shua! His palm cut through the air, but just as it was about to land, a shadow flashed forward like lightning. Pa! A crisp sound rang out. Ling Han was sent flying. His body hurled through the air like a broken arrow. He had activated the star-plucking step, placing himself between Yang Hao and Empress Luanxing, taking the blow in her stead. Yet even his formidable physique had its limits. Yang Hao, at the high extreme of the sun-moon tier, had struck with full force. Several of Ling Han's godly bones shattered instantly under the impact. Wah! Ling Han spat out mouthfuls of blood, his vision blurred. Darkness creeping in at the edges, he teetered on the brink. between consciousness and oblivion, between life and death. Never before had he stood so close to the abyss. Gritting his teeth, he forced his mind to remain clear, circulating a drop of indestructible true fluid. In an instant, his wounds began to mend. Venerable Trinity let out a soft exclamation, clearly surprised by such astonishing recovery. Ling Han's desperate charge had gone unnoticed by him, but this resilience was worthy of attention. Yang Hao's eyes widened slightly as well. He hadn't died? After a full-powered strike? A cold smile returned to his face. So what if he survived? That blow had nearly killed him. Another strike would surely end it. Perhaps he had consumed some rare treasure beforehand. That must be the reason for his sudden recovery. Turning his gaze back to Empress Luanxing, Yang Hao's expression grew darker. She was still suppressed, utterly defenseless. Striking Ling Han brought no satisfaction, but slapping a heavenly body tier elite? That would be true exhilaration, especially one who had forced him to spit blood and lose life essence. Twice. He raised his hand again. He knew Ling Han would intervene once more, and that only made it more enjoyable. Pang! As expected, Ling Han flashed forward again, using the star plucking step to block the attack. Once more, he was sent flying. Blood burst from his body like crimson mist. Several godly bones shattered anew. This time, the attack was even more terrifying. Yang Hao had infused his strike with the regulations of heaven and earth. Hundreds of divine patterns manifested in the void, weaving together into a suffocating killing intent. Ling Han barely clung to life. That he had not perished was already a miracle born of his monstrous physique. Even a high-extreme sun-moon tier cultivator would struggle to shatter level 5 godly metal with a single blow. All of you deserve to die! Empress Luanxing's voice erupted like a thunderclap. Killing intent surged from her eyes, vast and boundless. A ruler's fury shook the heavens themselves. Her body trembled, a terrifying aura rising as though she might break free from the invisible chains binding her. Young lady, you are far too naive, Venerable Trinity said with a faint laugh. In the next instant, the pressure upon her multiplied explosively. Her struggling ceased. She was once again completely immobilized, helpless, trapped beneath the will of an eternal river tier existence.